Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us this week on Up in the Air. I'm Mike Kwasnick.
And I'm Casey Herman.
There's so much we have to talk about this week. Earthquakes, Niagara Falls, and a feature on naming winter storms.
That's right, and of course we'll have more on climate. Casey will stop by later with the details on what kind of weather we can expect going forward.
We'll have all that and more in just a bit, but first, here's Update in the Air. Unexpected changes are happening to airline flights as the climate adjusts in time, scientists say. These changes include longer flights, more turbulence, and more takeoff weight restrictions. Scientists use a computer program to see what flights across the Atlantic would be like with certain criteria. They concluded that transatlantic flights would be, on average, 1 minute longer over a round trip. This may not seem like a large impact. However, 1 minuscule minute added to many flights every year adds over 2,000 hours of airtime every year. This adds up to an estimated cost of $22 million more annually.
An estimated 150,000 Adelie penguins living in Antarctica have died after an iceberg the size of Rome became grounded near their colony, forcing them to trek over 35 miles to the sea for food. The penguins of Cape Denison and Commonwealth Bay used to live close to a large body of open water. However, in 2010, a colossal iceberg became trapped in the bay, rendering the colony effectively landlocked. Over the years, the arduous journey has been a devastating effect on the size of the colony. Since 2011, the colony of 160,000 penguins has shrunk to just 10,000. According to research carried out by the Climate Change Research Center, scientists predict the colony will be gone in 20 years unless the sea ice breaks up or the giant iceberg is dislodged. Penguins have been recorded in the area for more than 100 years, but the outlook for the penguins remaining at the Cape Denison is dire. In contrast, a colony located just 5 miles from the coast of Commonwealth Bay is thriving, the researchers said. The iceberg had apparently been floating close to the coast for 20 years before crashing into a glacier and becoming stuck.
Look at this photo. This was taken on the top of Whiteface Mountain in the Adirondacks in New York. There are some very interesting statistics taken from the mountain when this photo was taken. The temperature was freakishly frigid at minus 38 degrees Fahrenheit on Saturday, February 13th. In addition, the wildly whipping wind was measured at 45 miles per hour. The wind, combined with the temperature, made Whiteface Mountain a frozen hell, registering a minus 84 degree wind chill. For added effect, this was a minus 114 degree wind chill using the old wind chill system. All is not lost, however, as this area of the country is expected to quickly warm up.
The third most powerful earthquake in Oklahoma's recorded history jolted the northern part of the state on February 13th around 11 a.m. The magnitude 5.1 quake centered near Fairview was felt in 7 states overall. There have only been 2 other earthquakes recorded in Oklahoma that exceeded 5.0 magnitudes before this latest one. Oklahoma has recently seen a dramatic spike in earthquakes. The ground keeps shaking and becoming more violent. Before February 13th, Oklahoma had only been shaken by 7 earthquakes at least 4.0 magnitudes in 2016. Those quakes were all recorded within the first 8 days of January. The strongest of those, the 4.8 on January 6, was among a swarm of 32 earthquakes recorded at the period of almost 24 hours. Through the evening of February 13th, Oklahoma had recorded 133 quakes this year that measured at least 3.0, according to the Oklahoma Geological Survey. Geologist Todd Hallahan, who teaches at Oklahoma State and believes water disposal wells used after hydraulic fracturing is linked to the quake increase. So far, Oklahoma has no plans to stop hydraulic fracturing, but state officials do plan to reduce the number of injection wells by several hundred as early as next week. These injection wells pose the highest potential risk for causing damaging earthquakes in Oklahoma.
Atmospheric scientists are closely monitoring the Arctic ozone, as record cold temperatures in the stratosphere have had a devastating effect on ozone levels. Scientists are currently wondering if this type of Arctic ozone hole could become more commonplace. Similar to the well-known Antarctic ozone hole, and formed under similar conditions, the Arctic ozone has already been depleted by 25%. The reason for this hit on ozone levels is because the polar vortex, the strong wind that circles the pole typically, has been unusually strong this year. This allows for nitric acid to condense and for really amazing looking nacreous clouds to form. However, their beauty comes at a price, as these clouds destroy ozone. It is still debated whether climate change is a factor in these Arctic ozone holes and requires further study.
After almost 50 years, officials are debating whether they should shut off the tap for part of Niagara Falls in order to repair two decaying pedestrian bridges. The dewatering of the falls will also allow researchers to get a closer look at the rocks underneath them, providing an unexpected look into the rock cutting process. The American Falls and the Bridal Veil Falls would be the waterfalls to be shut off, which hold only about 10 to 15% of the total flow, reports Live Science. This would allow workers to demolish and replace the aging 115-year-old pedestrian bridges spanning the rapids along the Niagara River. The bridges have been closed since 2004 due to safety issues. The waterfall was shut off once before in 1969 for an erosion study, the Associated Press reports. Researchers were able to get a rare look at the rock formations beneath the American and Bridal Veil Falls. Scientists hope to compare these decade-old photos with their new findings if the water is shut off. The research team would use stereophonography to create detailed maps of their underlying rock and laser ranging, which measures how long it takes for water from the falls to beam up to several satellites around the world, or even overhead drones with mounted cameras. The replacement is expected to cost $24 million, and state park officials say the project will not begin before 2019 if it were to happen. Thanks for tuning back in.
We now have a special feature on naming winter storms.
Everyone knows that once a tropical storm is born, it receives a name. But why are they so special?
Should winter storms receive names as well? I'm Amanda Reynolds.
And I'm Marissa Lautenbacher, and we will be discussing the debate on winter storm naming in the Climate and Weather Enterprise.
In the winter of 2012 and 2013, the Weather Channel decided that they were going to begin naming winter storms similarly to how hurricanes are currently named.
The Weather Channel determined that naming would help raise awareness of major winter weather events that would sweep across the nation. They have a quantitative way in which they name storms. We talked to winter weather expert Tom Nizzle to find our answer.
And so the method that we use, as I related to earlier, is a time-tested method of using the National Weather Service's winter storm warning thresholds for evaluating how many people or how large an area will be under those types of thresholds.
The Weather Channel thought that tagging a name to a storm would help their viewers track the storm as it moves across the country. They wanted to give people at home the power to hashtag the name of the event and the ability to share it over social media platforms for others to recognize the impact of the storm in their area. Weather Channel can easily find tweets and posts for the winter storm name and can share it with their viewers on air for those who may not have access to social media.
However, the National Weather Service has a very different perspective. Dr. Ussolini, the director of the National Weather Service, says that a large majority of the weather enterprise, including the National Weather Service, recognizes the difficulty and complications in naming winter storms and sees no added benefit to the added complication. They focus on making sure that the impacts of the storms are properly communicated.
There's a wide distribution of impacts associated with winter storms, and that's what we have to get right. Where's the rain-snow line? Where is snow going to be from a light to moderate to heavy? Where is the heaviest, the strongest winds going to be? Where are the freezing temperatures going to be? These are the kinds of impacts that we're communicating to our users, and a name doesn't help with that.
In addition, it was said that the National Weather Service does not name winter storms and has no intention of doing so in the future. Their main concern with the naming is the confusion of what is actually being named.
What are we naming? Now, for winter storms, we can predict these storms, in some cases 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 day in advance. So for 7 days, these storms are being projected in the media as a numerical forecast. The storm itself can develop, hit an area, and actually move, away from the U.S. all in some cases 12 to 18 hours.
There is a whirlwind of mixed feelings from all types of media and users of weather information. There are some strong supporters and others that feel a strong distaste of the topic.
There would have to be a strong consensus from meteorologists from the public, private, and academic sector together and discuss whether it would be improve or hinder the communication of weather information.
The American Meteorological Society would need to be the ultimate mediator.
So, will winter storm naming continue and start to snowball?
Or will the idea just melt away into the past?
For Up in the Air, I'm Marissa Lautenbacher.
And I'm Amanda Reynolds.
Welcome back to the show.
It's now in the middle of February, and Casey has some more updates of the weather.
Yeah, I can't believe it's already past the middle of February and the winter will be winding down before we know it. The average high temperature for February 17th around 38 degrees and the average low 22. And precipitation could still be falling as snow as we get into the rest of February. 2.5 inches is our average for February and 11 inches of snow as well. Looking at the current snow cover across the United States, most of the northeastern portion of the United States is covered in snow right now, and parts of the Midwest still, and the South doesn't have any snow cover, but as we move across into the West, they definitely have snow cover all across and really deep in some areas as well, making it easier for ski resorts to continue their business throughout the winter. 42% of the United States is currently covered in snow. And as we look at a better look at the northeast portion of the United States, 97% of this area is covered in snow right now. Up in Maine, parts of Maine still have 2 feet of snow on the ground right now. And this isn't going to be changing anytime soon, as temperatures still are going to remain fairly cold for the Northwest. And this snow is going to remain on the ground for a while as well. Looking at the upward air pattern for the next week or so, this should be moving down, bringing these colder temperatures still into the area and these warmer temperatures remaining in the south, so we won't be seeing too much of them quite yet. But as we look into the next couple of weeks, maybe we'll see these temperatures warm up. And looking into the temperature outlook, this is for February 23rd to the 29th, slightly above normal for parts of Maine, but for the rest of the eastern portion of the United States, we're going to be seeing fairly colder temperatures than what we're used to for this time of year. But as we push off into the west, well above normal for parts of California and Arizona, and above normal for the rest of the Midwest as well. And that's going to continue this drought that they are seeing here in California, as these temperatures are being warmer than they're used to around the area. And looking at the precipitation outlook for February 23rd to the 29th as well, above normal for parts of Maine and into Florida as well, and normal for the rest of the eastern portion of the United States across the coast. And as we push west into California and Arizona, still below normal for much of the area, and that is not going to be helping them out with the drought that they have been facing. But parts of the western coast are seeing a little bit more precipitation than they're used to for this time of year, which could be adding to their snowfall amount that's on the ground currently. And looking at the drought monitor across the United States, just a couple areas here in the Northeast, but for the most part, it's fairly normal right now for this time of year. But pushing west, this has been the main story we've been seeing for the most of winter, and even for the past couple years in California, this drought is still occurring, and it doesn't look like it's going to be ending anytime soon. But we'll keep you updated on that. That's all I have here at the Climate Wall. Back to Casey and Mike at the desk.
Thanks, Casey. That's all we have for this week. Make sure you tune in next week for a brand new episode. But for now, I'm Mike Kwasnick.
And I'm Casey Herman. We'll see you next week, Up in the Air.